Picture this. You've got money in a bank. A lot of money. Your life savings. Everything you worked for. The bank has fancy marble columns, armed guards, the whole deal. You trust them completely. Then one day, you get in an argument with the bank manager. Maybe about politics. Maybe you said something he didn't like. And the next morning, you wake up, check your phone, and your account balance is zero. Not because you spent it. Not because someone hacked it. Because the bank manager just decided to lock you out. Your money still exists. You just can't touch it anymore. Now imagine you're not a person. You're a country. You're China, or Brazil, or Saudi Arabia. And the bank isn't a local branch. It's the entire U.S. financial system. And that's exactly what's happening right now. We're watching the biggest breakup in financial history. BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and their new friends are quietly, systematically dumping U.S. debt. They're selling the bonds that have held the American economy together for decades. And they're buying the one thing America can't freeze, can't hack, can't control: gold. This isn't just some boring economic shift. This is financial war, and most Americans have no idea it's even happening. By the end of this video, you're going to understand why the world is divorcing the dollar, and more importantly, what it means for your wallet, your savings, and your future. Let's go. So first, we need to understand what actually happened. The moment everything changed. February 2022, Russia invades Ukraine. Now, forget your opinions on the war for a second. Look at this purely through the eyes of money. What happened next was unprecedented. Within days of the invasion, the US and Europe did something that had never been done before. They froze $300 billion of Russia's central bank reserves. $300 billion. Just gone. Locked. Inaccessible. Now, the West saw this as justice. A way to punish Russia without firing a shot. But think about how that looked to every other country watching. Especially the ones that don't always agree with America. If you're China, sitting there with over $700 billion in US Treasury bonds, you just watched Russia lose $300 billion overnight. Not because they defaulted. Not because they went bankrupt. Because America and Europe simply decided to press a button and freeze it. Suddenly, every country holding US debt realized something terrifying. That money isn't actually ours. It's just a number on a screen in New York. And if we do something America doesn't like, invade Taiwan, challenge trade policy, support the wrong side in a conflict, that money can disappear instantly. This is what broke the trust. For decades, US Treasury bonds were considered the safest investment on earth. Safer than gold. Safer than anything. Because even if America had problems, they'd always pay you back. That was the deal. But in 2022, a new risk appeared. Political risk. The risk that America has the money but refuses to give it to you. And once that trust breaks, it doesn't come back. So what did China do? What did Saudi Arabia do? What did Brazil do? They started selling. Quietly, and slowly, but relentlessly. They're dumping US bonds and buying gold. Because gold is the one asset that can't be frozen. If you've got physical gold bars sitting in a vault in Beijing or Moscow, the US Treasury can't just turn them off. They're real. They're yours. No matter what. This was the starting gun. The moment the world realized the dollar isn't neutral anymore. It's a weapon. And nobody wants to hold a weapon pointed at their own head. But fear of sanctions is just the emotional reason. The mathematical reason is way scarier. Let's talk about America's balance sheet. Because the numbers are absolutely insane. Right now, the US national debt is over $35 trillion. That's trillion with a T. Most people can't even comprehend how big that is. So let me break it down. If you spent $1 million every single day since the day Jesus was born, you still wouldn't have spent $1 trillion. You need to keep spending for another 2,000 years. America is $35 trillion in the hole. And it's getting worse. Fast. We're adding about $1 trillion to the debt every 100 days. Every 100 days. For a long time, the world was okay with this. Why? Because America was the biggest, strongest economy on earth. Lending to the US was safe. But now, the math doesn't work anymore. Here's the nightmare. The US borrowed all this money when interest rates were basically zero. Free money. But then inflation hit. The Federal Reserve had to raise interest rates to fight it. And suddenly, the interest on that $35 trillion isn't cheap anymore. In 2024, the US government is spending more on interest payments than it spends on the entire military. Think about that. We were spending more just to pay the minimum balance on our credit card than we spend on the Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines combined. If you're a country like Brazil or India and you're holding US bonds, you're basically lending money to someone who's drowning in debt, printing money to pay off old loans, and has no plan to fix it. Would you keep lending to that person? Hell no. Before we keep going, if this is making sense to you, hit that subscribe button. We're Money Trap Channel, and every week we break down the financial shifts, the power plays, and the money moves that are reshaping the world. This BRICS situation is happening right now, and you need to understand it. Alright, let's keep going. So BRICS countries are looking at America's debt and realizing there's only one way out. The US can't pay back $35 trillion in real terms. The only way to do it is by printing $35 trillion new dollars, which makes every dollar worth less. So why would China or Saudi Arabia want to hold an asset? US bonds. That's guaranteed to lose value. They don't. They want something that can't be printed. Something that holds its value no matter what. Gold. In 2023 and 2024, central banks around the world went on the biggest gold buying spree in 60 years. China has been buying gold for 18 consecutive months. They're taking the money they make from selling us iPhones and electronics, and instead of buying used bonds like they used to, they're buying gold bars. This is a vote of no confidence. They're saying, we don't trust your promise anymore. We want the real thing. But it's not just about safety. It's about energy. Because the real power of the dollar comes from a deal made 50 years ago. And that deal is falling apart. Let me explain. In the 1970s, after the US went off the gold standard, the dollar was backed by nothing. Just trust. So America made a deal with Saudi Arabia. The deal was simple. America gives Saudi Arabia military protection and weapons. In return, Saudi Arabia sells all its oil exclusively in US dollars. This was genius, because every country needs oil. And if you need oil, you need dollars to buy it. This created permanent demand for the dollar. It forced Japan, China, Europe, everyone to hold dollars just to keep their economies running. This is called the petrodollar system. And it's been the secret weapon of American economic power for 50 years. It's why we can print money and the world absorbs it. Because they need dollars to buy energy. But that system is dying. In 2023, Saudi Arabia openly said they're willing to sell oil in currencies other than the dollar. This is huge. Because China is now Saudi Arabia's biggest customer. And China is saying, why do I need to convert my currency into dollars to buy your oil? Then you convert those dollars back into my currency to buy my products. Why don't I just pay you directly? That's exactly what's happening. China is paying for oil in yuan. Russia is selling oil in rubles. The United Arab Emirates, Iran, all the major oil producers in BRICS, they're cutting out the dollar. If the world doesn't need dollars to buy oil anymore, the demand for dollars collapses. And if demand collapses, all those trillions of dollars sitting overseas flood back into America. And when trillions of dollars come home all at once, you get hyperinflation that makes 2022 look like nothing. BRICS knows this. They're deliberately destroying the petrodollar. Not with bombs, with boring trade agreements. A handshake here, a contract there, but the result is the same. The end of American financial dominance. But there's more. Because it's not just about changing the currency. They're building an entirely new financial system, one that America can't control. For decades, the world's banks have used something called SWIFT. It's basically the internet for international money transfers. If a bank in China wants to send money to a bank in Germany, they use SWIFT. And here's the thing. The US controls SWIFT. We saw this with Iran in 2012. We saw it with Russia in 2022. When America wants to punish a country, we just kick them off SWIFT. And suddenly, they can't trade, can't buy medicine, can't sell oil. Their economy goes dark. This is the financial kill switch. And BRICS is terrified of it. So they're building their own system. It's called mBridge. It's a collaboration between China, Thailand, UAE, and others. Instead of using SWIFT, they use blockchain technology and digital currencies to send money directly, peer-to-peer. No American oversight, no US banks in the middle. If America can't see the transactions, America can't sanction them. They're building a tunnel under the highway. And once it's done, they don't need dollars anymore. This is why they're dumping US debt. Because if you don't need dollars for trade, you don't need to hold dollars in your reserves. The entire reason central banks held US bonds was to have dollars available for international trade. But if they're trading in yuan or gold or their own currencies, why hold dollars at all? And here's where it gets really interesting. BRICS isn't just 5 countries anymore. In 2024, they expanded. Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, UAE all joined. And there's a waiting list of over 30 countries wanting in. Thailand, Vietnam, Nigeria. Even Mexico is interested. This isn't just a club of countries that hate America. This is the global South saying, we're tired of playing by rules written in Washington. These countries have the oil, the copper, the rare earth metals, the lithium, everything needed for the modern economy. And they're saying, if you want our stuff, you can't just print dollars anymore. You need to pay in something real. This is a declaration of independence. And it's creating a split in the world economy. Block A, the US and allies, trading in dollars. Block B, BRICS and friends, trading in their own currencies, backed by gold and commodities. The problem for America? Block B has all this stuff. You can't print oil. You can't print copper. And if they only want to sell their resources for gold or their own currencies, the dollar loses its superpower. So what does this mean for you? Because this isn't just theory. This affects your life directly. Right now, you can walk into Walmart and buy a TV for $300, a t-shirt for $5, coffee, electronics, everything is cheap. Why? Because the strong dollar lets us buy foreign goods for pennies. The world has been subsidizing American consumers for decades. But what happens when BRICS stops accepting dollars? When they demand payment in yuan or gold instead, the demand for dollars crashes. And when demand crashes, value crashes. Suddenly that $300 TV costs $600. That $5 t-shirt costs $15. The coffee from Brazil doubles. The avocados from Mexico triple. This isn't 8% inflation. This is a permanent repricing of the American lifestyle. The cheap stuff era is ending. BRICS is pulling the rug out. They're saying, if you want our products, pay the real price. No more printing money. And there's more bad news. For decades, foreign countries bought our debt, which kept interest rates low. Low interest rates meant cheap mortgages, cheap car loans, cheap credit. But if BRICS isn't buying our bonds anymore, who is? To find new buyers, the US has to offer higher interest rates, which means mortgage rates stay high. Car loans stay expensive. Credit cards hit 30%. The Fed pivot everyone's waiting for? It might never come. Because without foreign buyers, rates have to stay high to attract anyone at all. This is the trap. Either the Fed prints money to buy its own debt, which causes hyperinflation, or they let rates rise, which causes a depression. There's no good option. So what do you do? How do you protect yourself? Simple. Watch what BRICS is doing. They're selling paper and buying real assets. Gold, silver, energy, commodities, the things that can't be printed. If the biggest countries on earth are dumping dollars for gold, why are you keeping everything in dollars? You need exposure to real assets. Things the government can't print away. Gold and silver are obvious. Energy stocks, commodity producers, even Bitcoin, the digital gold. The era of just packing money in a savings account and hoping for the best is over. We're entering the age of active defense. You have to protect your wealth because nobody else will. Look, we're living through history right now. Decades from now, people will look back at the 2020s as the moment everything changed. When the weaponization of the dollar in 2022 accelerated the fall of American financial dominance. When the East built a new system while the West printed money and argued. But you don't have to wait for the history books. You're watching it happen. BRICS isn't dumping US debt because they're evil. They're doing it because it's the smart move. They're securing their lifeboats before the ship goes down. The question is, are you securing yours? There's more to this story. Way more. The mechanics of how this collapse plays out, what it means for your retirement, and the exact moves you need to make. That video is up next on your screen. Click it. Watch it. Because understanding this isn't optional anymore. And drop a comment. Tell me, do you think the dollar survives this? Or are we watching the end of an empire? I read every single one. Until next time, stay sharp.